Okay, today we're going to talk a little bit more about CSS, but before we do that, I wanted to introduce you to a new HTML tag or element, and that is the div tag. So I've got a few in my document over here. My first one that we're looking at is starts on line 14, ends on line 16. The div tag is consisting of an opening and a closing tag, and it's a way for you to create divisions or boxes in code. So since I have my first one, opening and closing highlighted, you can see the box that Dreamweaver draws around it for you. I'll highlight my next one. You can see the little box. Highlight my next one. So you can have multiple divs in a document. You can nest divs together. Really, it's just a way for you to draw a box in code. So looking at the image that I have here, the box model in CSS has a few different things that you'll be dealing with in terms of styling for CSS and dealing with it in code. So the first thing is the content, right? That's in blue. That's whatever is going to go inside your box. Text, image, video, all these things can be contained within your div tag element. Currently, I've got a bunch of text in my first one. My second one, I have some text and image. Third one, I've just got text links. So any visible content that you can put on a page can be put inside a div tag. So the content, that's the first thing. The second thing is padding. You'll see that in green here. Padding is the distance or space between the content and the containing element. So as a simple example, looking at my first div tag here, you see that I've got my content is my text, and the space between my content and the edge of the box, I controlled that in CSS. I didn't want it to just be right up next to the edge of the box. I wanted a little bit of space, so I inserted some padding here. So you could think of this like if you were in a small elevator, you wouldn't have much padding around your body if you were the content, as opposed to if you went into a large room, you'd have more padding, right? You're the content, and you'd have all this padding around you before the edge of the containing element, the room. If you go outside, infinite padding. So that's a silly analogy, but maybe it might help you remember. The next element or the next property is border. This is optional, obviously. You don't have to have a border, but if you did, that would be the next thing that happened to style for your div tag. So you can do thick borders, thin borders, broken borders, solid borders. You can change the color of the border as well in CSS, and we'll look at that in a few minutes. And the last thing is margin, and this is the space outside of your box. So this would be, you could think of it like the personal space of the box. Currently, I don't have any margin here. My boxes are going right next to each other. I should probably add some margin here so you can see, but think of it like personal space. You know, if you've ever been around someone that really likes to be close to you, a close talker, you might know that you might need a little bit more personal space or margin. So your boxes might need some margin too. So I added some margin into mine on the bottom. So now you can see that my boxes have a little bit of personal space around them. So margin, space around the box. So any div tag that you have in your document can be styled with CSS. So if you were to add these div tags right now, you wouldn't really see much of a difference. You might see a break or something. Let me show you what yours might look like actually. If you were to add it right now, it would just probably look, you know, like this. So I'm in my source code now. You can see I do have div tags in here, but you know, there's not really any styling applied to it. The only styling that you see is the styling that I did in my H1s and my H6s. Okay, but going back to CSS, there are things that we can do to our div tag in CSS. Again, I'm looking at source code here. You can tell because you see HTML tags. Styles, we start to see tags separated by curly braces. So I've got a couple of things. Look on line 31. You'll see my div tag here, and I'm going to go ahead and uncomment that out. Things that I'm controlling are background color. I'm controlling some margin. I gave it some padding here. I made the width 70%. And I gave it a margin on the bottom. So those are some things that I chose to control. I do want to show you a resource for CSS properties. It's here on the W3 Schools, and if you visit that, maybe bookmark it, you'll see an alphabetical list of all the properties that you could change in your CSS, not just for divs, but for everything, and a little description on what it does. I do 10% padding here. If I do 10%, you'll see that happen here. So you can just kind of play with those percentages, and again, it grows proportionally to what's going on. So I'm going to go maybe to 5, split the diff. Okay, I could do 50% if I want here for width. You can just kind of play with these things, but again, percentages are a best practice. It will be more helpful for you to start thinking like that now in terms of responsiveness. So percentages is a best practice. All right, so let's try it. Go ahead and make in your CSS, make a div tag here, apply some attributes, and then go back into your source code and enclose something in a div tag.